are watching NewsX World. Let's take a look at some of the top stories. A second round of direct peace talks between Russia and Ukraine in Istanbul have ended after just an hour. Ukraine says it gave Moscow a list of hundreds of deported children during the talks, while President Zelensky says Putin must get nothing that would justify his aggression. Ahead of the peace talks in Turkey, Russia and Ukraine exchanged heavy drone barrages, with Moscow claiming it downed 162 drones. While Kyiv reports strikes on 12 targets, these escalations come in the wake of Ukraine's Operation Spiderweb, which targeted Russian bombers deep into the country. The UN Chief Antonio Guterres has joined calls for an independent investigation into an alleged Israeli military attack on an aid facility near Rafah in Gaza. Israel has denied reports that dozens were killed after civilians were fired at. Meanwhile, 8 people have been injured after a man shouting "Free Palestine" threw firebombs into a crowd at a pro-Israel event in Colorado. The FBI labels it as a targeted act of terror, following a recent fatal shooting of 2 Israeli embassy staffs in Washington. A senior Iranian diplomat has told Reuters that its response can be considered a rejection of a completely one-sided U.S. offer. The White House says reportedly sent what it sees as an acceptable proposal after several rounds of nuclear discussions amid military threats from Donald Trump. China has accused the United States of severely violating their trade truce, saying it will take the strongest measures to defend its interests. A 110% reduction in reciprocal tariffs between the nations was agreed in Geneva, though Trump has also accused China of violations. Millions of South Koreans are set to head to the polls tomorrow in an election that comes amid political instability. Opinion polls place Lee Jae-myung as the frontrunner to replace impeached former President Yoon Suk-yeol after his short-lived martial law declaration. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer says that every citizen has a role to play in making the country battle-ready. As he launches the Strategic Defence Review in Glasgow, Starmer says the UK faces a more serious, more immediate threat, with 12 new attack submarines to be built. Second round of peace talks between the Ukrainian and Russian delegations have ended. The Turkish Foreign Ministry spokesperson said the spokesperson also stated that the meeting did not end negatively. The talks took place at Istanbul's Chiragan Palace, aimed to end the war which has raged on for more than 3 years. The meeting is said to have lasted for just over an hour. Speaking at the NATO Eastern Flank Summit, Zelensky said that Ukraine and Russia are working on another round of exchange of prisoners of war. He also said that Putin must not be rewarded for war. Ukrainian presidential aide Andriy Yermak said that Ukrainian negotiators handed Russian officials a list of children illegally deported by Moscow during the war, demanding their return. Ukrainian Defense Minister Rustem Umelov led Kyiv's delegation, while Russia's side was headed by Vladimir Medinsky. Medinsky currently serves as an aide to Putin. Turkey's Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan oversaw the talks. The talks come just a day after Ukraine launched Operation Spiderweb, an audacious drone offensive deep into Russian territory, which targeted multiple air bases and damaged up to 40 strategic Russian bombers. This is the second round of talks being held in Istanbul. The previous session last month resulted in a large-scale prisoner exchange, but failed to produce a lasting ceasefire or any other major breakthrough towards ending this war. Now we have guests joining us. Andrea Lucidi, she's a war reporter live from Donbass. Thank you for joining us today. Andrea, now that the peace talks have concluded, although the Turkish Foreign Ministry spokesperson has only said that it did not end negatively, what are your take on these talks?
As expected, I saw only small steps in this peace talking because the yesterday attacks of Ukraine against Russia airfields, I'm sure, have made the situation of this talking little bit more added more tension to these talks. And yeah, the parts like said agreed about a new prisoner exchange, but only few concrete steps for a peace. And personally, I don't think that we will see a resolution for this conflict in short time.
And according to you, Andrea, is Russia serious about negotiations or just buying time for a spring offensive?
I think that Russia is take this negotiation serious, and because it's the first interest of Russia to solve the conflict. But Russia has strictly claims about a peace. For example, since months, the spokesman of the Kremlin, Dmitry Peskov, said that it's necessary that Russia and Ukraine agreed about the motivation that bring the two countries into the war. For example, the NATO presence in Ukraine and the future of membership thinks that it's necessary to negotiate it. But unfortunately, from Ukraine, this is not a main topic to discuss. And if the situation will continue as this, this step-by-step stall, I think that it's needed much time for have concrete results. At this moment, like I said, the Ukrainian-Russian delegation agreed on only about new prisoner exchange, and they agreed for a third talk about peace. But at this moment, we don't know the future date of new meeting and if there are new topics about future negotiations.
And I'll also like to touch on Turkey, the location of these talks. Does Turkey have enough leverage to mediate a meaningful breakthrough between these two sides?
Turkey presents themselves as a mediator since the first weeks of the conflict in 2022. So I think that even Turkey is a NATO country, the role of Turkey now can work very well as a mediator. Personally, I see that the ideal role for a mediator in the conflict will be the European Union. But at the moment, it's impossible because the European Union is completely under the Washington foreign policy. So as a mediator, Russia and Ukraine need a third actor. And in this case, Turkey is working very well.
And how come you didn't mention US's role in this? What role is the US really playing behind closed doors? Are they really pushing for a compromise or hard lines here?
I think that the Trump administration have enough of this situation. Trump doesn't see Russia as an enemy for the US and want to prioritize his foreign policy against Iran and China. So in the Middle East and in the Far East Asia, Southeast Asia, sorry. And for this reason, it's needed that Europe will be calm. I think that his policy, the Trump policy as isolationist, pro-tariff politician, will not leave Ukraine, but Trump can force the Ukrainian leadership to agree or have a compromise with Russia.
And now switching focus for a moment to Operation Spiderweb. After Operation Spiderweb, is Russia likely to negotiate or retaliate?
I think this operation from the Special Service of Ukraine inside Russia will motivate Russia for a big resistance against new attempt from Ukraine to hit the Russian military fields or the Russian strategical infrastructures like the railways. I think in the Russian people, such attack gave more strength, more reasons for prolongate the war against Ukraine.
And
because sorry, if I would like to add small part, a lot of Russian people it's thinking that this war is not a simple war against Russia and Ukraine, but against Russia and the West, like a proxy war that used Ukraine as a first stage. But behind Ukraine, there are all the NATO and Western states against Russia. This is the common thing.
Thank you very much, Andrea, for joining us today. And now we move on to our next story. In a major shift, Iran is making its position clear. It will not sign any nuclear deal that bans uranium enrichment, a right it claims under peaceful nuclear activity. Speaking in Cairo after talks with the UN nuclear watchdog, Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said Iran has nothing to hide and that its program is for civilian use only. The comment comes as a leaked IAEA report shows Iran has stepped up enrichment to up to 60%, nearing weapons-grade levels. The UN watchdog is calling for more transparency. Iran dismissed the report and warned against European threats to reimpose sanctions, accusing some countries of using the IAEA for political pressure. At the core of the deadlock is the US demand for Iran to halt enrichment completely. But Tehran has rejected that as a red line and says it will continue with or without a deal. Iran is pressing Washington for guarantees that sanctions will be fully lifted, something Iranian officials say the US has yet to clarify. 5 rounds of talks mediated by Oman have failed to break the stalemate. Now we have guests joining us. Glu Kov He, he's an international affairs expert from the Vatican City. Welcome to NewsX World. Thank you for joining us. Why is Iran insisting on enriching uranium if the program is only for peaceful uses?
Yes, hello. It's my pleasure to join you as well. So I'm here at the right of the Vatican City. My opinion is that these are the points which are to be used in negotiations. The fact that Iran might in the near future or might have already obtained nuclear capabilities does not, in my opinion, doesn't really change much in terms of geopolitical positioning of Iran, because ultimately all negotiations involving Iran are pretty much driven by Israel, I think, and so even the U.S. in that sense acts as a as a party expressing Israeli interests. The fact that Iran is threatening to increase the enrichment levels, I think it's just another step, another piece of negotiation puzzle here. Ultimately, we need to understand that Iran, unlike Russia, which has managed to survive under sanctions, is a much less diversified economy, and especially over the last few years, it has been suffering quite a lot because of the different, side effects of the sanctions. So I think Iranian government understands that in order for it to stay in power and to avoid civil unrest, it doesn't need to get some kind of breaks, in terms of partial sanctions lifting, in terms of relieving the stress on its economy. So ultimately, I think it's not the question of whether Iran actually needs a functioning nuclear weapon.
And Gleb, what's
because
stopping?
ultimately we'll never be able to use it in any case.
What's stopping Iran and the US from reaching a new nuclear deal, according to you?
Well, I think that's $1 million question. As I said, I think ultimately it's Israel, the Israeli government or Israeli political forces who are behind all of these negotiations as far as the US is concerned. I think ultimately Trump's administration, they are relatively pacifists, so I think it was just down to Trump. He would hopefully accelerate a deal with Iran. But I think there are a lot of other parties involved whose interests Trump needs to consider. And I think these parties are probably having some conflicting ideas about how to tackle Iran. So I think there are more hardliners, there are other political forces which are, in favor of some sort of long-term peaceful solution to the situation. I think ultimately it's not really the US-Iran game. I think it's the US-Israel, and Israel is probably, having a fight between a number of conflicting fractions who don't really know or have not made up their minds as to what they want to do.
And could this stalemate increase the risk of a new conflict in the region?
That's a good question. I mean, we've already seen pretty intense conflicts in the region. I mean, probably as hard as it gets. I mean, with the recent Iran-Israel, attacks on each other. From what I've read, Israeli defenses have been somewhat crippled, but also Israelis have suffered a few humiliating blows as well. So I honestly don't think there will be a future escalation, because probably both parties, especially Iran, need additional time to actually, recoup the strength. So near term, I don't think there'll be additional escalation. Plus, of course, we have Trump's administration, who are, despite of the intense Israeli lobby, they're also, trying to force their own peaceful agenda. So this is what we're seeing clearly with Russia, Ukraine. So yes, hopefully there'll be no further escalations as far as this and maybe next year are concerned. Again, this is my personal opinion.
Thank you very much, Gleb Borokov, for joining us. And we have breaking news. At a news conference in Istanbul, the Ukrainian delegation has stated that all key issues in the ongoing talks with Russia can only be resolved at the level of national leaders. Both sides have also agreed to exchange all seriously ill prisoners and those under the age of 25. However, Moscow continues to reject the idea of an unconditional ceasefire. Now we have guest Andrea Lucidi. He's a war reporter joining us from Moscow. Thank you, Andrea, for joining us.
Thank you for the invitation.
What more can you tell us about this breaking news that has just come in, post about Istanbul peace talks?
Well, this is not the first time that both sides agreed to prisoner exchange. After the first talks in Istanbul, the Russian and Ukrainian side agreed for the biggest prisoner exchange since the beginning of the conflict, 1,000 prisoners for each side. And now the attention of the Ukrainian Russian side is about the young prisoners and the IQ prisoners. This is a good news because we can interpreting this like a humanitarian step from the both sides. That means that the both sides begin to understand that the war is a big wound for the common people. And with this exchange, if all the steps will be successfully and the prisoner exchange will be in the near future,
I have one more
the
question.
young people that were drafted into the military from Ukrainian side, especially that have a big problem about the manpower, can come back at home and tell to the people about their experience on the field.
We have another breaking news. Thank you, Andrea, for joining us. Now we move on to our next story. South Korea is gearing up for a high-stakes presidential election, with voters heading to the polls on Tuesday, following months of political turmoil. The snap vote was triggered after former President Yoon Suk-yeol was impeached for declaring martial law last December. He was ousted from office, sparking widespread protests. Now, two main candidates are battling for the nation's future. Liberal frontrunner Lee Jae-myung, former governor of Gyeonggi Province, holds a strong lead with 49% support in the latest Gallup poll. His conservative rival, Kim Moon-soo of the People Power Party, Yoon's former party, trails with 35%. Both candidates have called this race a struggle for the soul of South Korea. Lee held his final rally in Seoul's Uido, where thousands gathered with blue balloons and K-pop blaring. Kim ended his campaign in Gangnam after touring from Jeju Island, targeting young voters. The election winner will take office immediately with no transition period for a single 5-year term. Now we have Dr. Sanjay Kumar joining us. He's a journalist in Korea Herald from Seoul. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome to NewsX World. Why is this election being called a fight for the soul of South Korea?
Let me tell you very frankly that although the stakes are high, but the majority of the people here in Seoul, they are somehow trying to vote against the martial law which was declared. And people here are on a majority basis, they are not convinced with the fact that the manner in which this martial law has been imposed should be accepted anyhow for restoring the democratic principles here. So you can say that there is a huge support in the camp of a Democratic Party. Lee Jae-myung, who is kind of leading, although you know their future are in the candidates' futures are in the ballot box, which will come out most probably in the evening tomorrow. We can discuss it tomorrow because we should not be very we should not have any preconceived determination to declare someone just as winner. But yeah, he is considered as heavyweight. He means Lee Jae-myung is considered heavyweight since last couple of months in the international media as well as the local media and the surveys and the people that we are talking to. But yes, the numbers and the numbers may decrease as well, because I have been talking to some people in Jeollado and Gyeongsang-do, which are, with these two provinces are known for their regionalism in politics, and generally Jeollado is considered as less prosperous, and Gyeongsang-do is considered more prosperous in terms of economic development historically. Historically, when we say in terms of Korea, it is like 70s and 80s when there was Park Chung-hee's rule here, and Gyeongsang-do people, they feel that what many developments happened in Korea, it was the result of that Park Chung-hee era. So they have a lineage always towards this conservative and far conservative side. So yeah, their vote are always being consolidated in that area, which is being visible this time as well. But that does not mean that it will turn into a conservative win, because of the divided opinion even among the conservative. For the conservatives, only a big news right now is that the former prime minister called Lee Na-gyeon, who was in the Democratic Party Lee Jae-myung side, he has decided to change the camp, and he is now supporting Kim Mon-soo, the conservative candidate. He is trying to galvanize his support base, claiming that although Lee Jae-myung is going to win, he may win the elections, and if this happens, although it is hypothetical, if this happens, that Korea may turn into an autocracy. And also he is trying to say that since Democratic Party has majority in parliament, and he knows the Lee Jae-myung style, that he has a style of delivering things in a different way. So there is a political kind of insecurity he is trying to bring out, and he is supporting the conservative side. So this is so far has been the good news, but still, in my personal opinion, I think only a miracle can save conservative side right now in Korea. And Lee Jae-myung, still he is leading, not just in terms of survey and like other measuring aspects, but on the people side also, especially in Seoul, people are very much in support of Lee Jae-myung. Again, overnight something also can happen. So we have to see tomorrow. And tomorrow morning, around 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock a.m., we are going to have exit polls too. So yeah, we can say tomorrow, I think, very easily that who is gonna win. But yeah, now still Lee Jae-myung is a heavyweight. Yeah.
And Dr. Sanjay, I would also like to know about the dynamics of the voters. How are young people likely to vote, and why does their vote matter so much this time?
For the young voter, the sentiment here is against the martial law as well as the economic insecurity. So they want a leader who can not only talk and address the Trump tariffs and the insecurities here being happening due to unemployment and some other economic aspects. They want to elect a leader who can address those issues, but at the same time there is a security aspect as well. Like North Korea threat is always like there in this part of the world, in Seoul and in entire Korea. So young generation do have concerns, because if Lee Jae-myung is elected, there is a security concern that may send some negative signals to the US and like-minded countries from Europe. And there is a concern among young voters too, because they want to see a prosperous Korea with more economic opportunities, and they want to go with the US, Japan, and the European countries. So the young voters, they have a little concern as well. On one side, they are unhappy with what happened during the Yoon Suk-yeol's martial law, but on the other side, they don't want to take a risk diplomatically. So there is a China factor as well. So they don't want to offend China. They don't want to offend either even US as well, but they do want Korea to diversify supply chains, exports, and build healthy relationship to bring more opportunities and address the economic concerns. But once again, I'm telling you, young generation or old generation, the entire Korea wants US-Korea alliance to be intact, and they don't want to compromise on the name of any kind of diversification in security or economic policy. So this is the whole the sentiment here among the youth, as well as we should say that here the old voters are also very important. Last year, young voters, they supported Yoon Suk-yeol as well, especially the male voters. But this time, so far, because in Korea things may change overnight. So far, of course, if Lee Jae-myung is elected, definitely he is going to be very powerful. I think one of the most powerful presidents that Korea is going to have, because technically, in the assembly also, Democratic Party has majority, and if he is elected, he will be a very popular president.
Dr.
And
Sanjay Kumar, we are running out of time. We have a breaking news. Thank you so much for sharing that insight. According to reports, Ukrainian Defense Minister Umerov has said that Russia and Ukraine have agreed to exchange the bodies of the dead soldiers, according to the 6,000 for 6,000 formula. Ukraine has also proposed holding a follow-up meeting by the end of June to push forward progress, while noting that Kyiv was unable to respond to Russian proposals made in Istanbul, as they had only just received them. Well, that's all we have time for. We will continue to bring more news updates from around the world.